recently that Randy and I both lived in New Township about the same time. So that's another interesting coincidence. And I went to Pitt starting in the fall of 1974. I met Leann very shortly after I started my first year of college. She was an RA in Lothrop Hall. We started going out. We were going out for 2 years at that point, and really got along well. We were both teenagers, and I've got to tell you, Leann was an amazing teenager. She was one once. But in that time, I got to know a lot of aspects about her. I met her family. I went on vacation with her family once to the Outer Banks, and got to know how important her sorority was to her. I didn't know anything about the Greek system, and she introduced me to all of that and why it was important and what it meant to her. I even went to the Greek formal with her, which was very eye-opening for me. But in that time, we had just so many amazing memories. I don't know how many of you know this, but she was a rabid Barry Manilow fan. And, we went and saw Barry Manilow every time he was in Pittsburgh, and we would hang out at the stage door trying to meet him. And the other thing I remember from that era, that was about the time that the Streisand movie premiered, Funny Lady, and I think the theater here in Pittsburgh was doing a big gala event. They were handing out yellow roses to all the ladies, and limos were coming up. It was a grand event. We got tickets to go, and she dressed up as a 1920s flapper with all of the exotic clothing, the big jewelry, and it was just an amazing event that I remember. We parted company at that point when she went off to Syracuse to law school. And I'm finding out the more people I meet who know Leann that you never really say goodbye to Leann, because I've dated a lot of people in my life over the years, and things usually run their course, and you part on wonderful terms, and you seldom see those people again. But people are amazed to hear that Leann was an important person I went out with even during my college years. We had a relationship that just kept growing and growing as a friendship throughout our entire lives. She became great friends with my wife, and she would come to New York City. We'd go out together, and she'd stay with us for a few days. It was just lovely. A little bit later in the 90s, we had play dates with my oldest daughter, Matt. I think that was around 1974, 75, or sorry, 94, 95.
That's like day and age.
But we had been in constant touch really across the entire arc of our lives. In the 1980s, she would be coming to New York a few times. In the 90s, I would always make sure to check in with her here in Pittsburgh. I'd be in Pittsburgh all the time. My sister still lives here. I have plenty of friends in town. It is my favorite town, maybe a little bit after New York, but I just always come back. It's like Mecca to me, and I would always touch base. We'd have a long dinner catching up on each other's lives, and that magnetism with her just grew throughout the whole arc of our lives. I think there was a point in time, and it may have been because of career change or something with Leann, we didn't see each other for an extended period, and I think that was probably from around 2000 for the next 10 years or so. But we were constantly in touch on the phone. In the last 5 years, we still haven't seen each other, but the phone calls were becoming longer and just more wonderful. I would sit out in my backyard and watch the sunset, and I'd have a 4-hour call with Leann, just catching up on everything. She would ostensibly be calling me to ask for financial advice or something. What should I do with this or that? But we never did any of that. We just talked about our families, talked about our lives and the trajectories of things, and we did what friends do. And I think that all continued even through December of talking to each other all the time. I remember at that point, like the story that Brandy told about taking a trip somewhere, one of my big loves is Mini Coopers, and I have one parked outside, and I go on these long road rallies coast to coast with Mini Cooper clubs and so forth. And she wanted so badly to go along on one of those, and I actually started to plan for and arrange that she could join me for any number of days she wanted. She just wanted to get away from her existence and get on the road and just have some escape from things and enjoy herself out with a bunch of crazy people. So we were tentatively planning for this summer to get together and do that. So, and he's going to be with me in spirit when I head up next month, to be sure. The other thing that's kind of interesting and overlap, Brandy mentioned, when she had a private practice, of how good she was at defending women in divorce cases. And actually, my family too. My sister-in-law used Leann as a divorce attorney in Pittsburgh as well. So we had some touch. Now, the interesting thing right now, I'm going through divorce, but Leann's not around to help me with it. So I wish she were, because even though she's not from New Jersey, I was looking forward to all the great advice that she always had for me. I've always seen Leann to be what I think of as a fierce friend. A friend who just trusts you and is there for you as really part of you throughout your entire life. She was just so very important to you. You meet people who have that importance to you. And when you get to know people that they touch, you see that it's mirrored in those other people. These people are very special people who care about others, who have up their moral compass in the right place. They are people you look up to and learn things from. And I look back on all the decisions I made and the ways that Leann helped me at various points. I went into college. I wanted to be a chemistry major because I knew a few scientists in my neighborhood and I always admired them. I just had no discipline to stand for that eventually. It was just not good for me. But in getting to know Leann, I learned a lot about economics and some of the other disciplines that were out there. I changed direction. She went to law school. I went to the MBA program at Pitt, and then I went to New York and I started working at Wall Street in 1980. And worked there for 40 years, and I'm just about ready to retire in a few months. But that whole career really started with some of the seeds that Leann planted in me to think about other things and to consider other options. And I think even some of the way I look at the world, the behaviors, the kindness that I cherish in others, I saw that in Leann, a very kind person, a caring person. People matter simply. And I think for me that was a lesson. It was something to learn and to become a better person myself for having known her. Brady talked about the last few months. I won't go into great detail except to say that I was sitting around on a Thursday and Brandy called and I was just shocked at what I was hearing. I work, I'm managing director in one of the big four accounting firms in New York, and March is the height of our busy season. We are working 60, 70, and 80-hour weeks to get our companies to get their financial statements filed on time, and it's just a time of the year that there's no excuse, you just get it done. But I had to close ranks with other people, call in favors, and turn over a lot of things for a week or so, just so I could drop whatever I was doing because it was less important than Leann. And I rushed to Pittsburgh, and it was when I met Matt for the first time in his adult life. I think I had seen him, he was only about that tall the last time. And we were all there with Leann, and it was very important that Leann knew we were there, that we were able to be there with her. And I think that experience to me taught me a great deal about life, a great deal about friendship, just a great deal about how the connections between us all are so important. And everything Leann had done for me, I had to be there with her in that moment. It was almost one of the most impactful moments ever. And I think I'll remember that forever, and I will remember that with love and with peace, because she passed knowing that she mattered to people and that people loved her. And I think that was the most important thing any of us can do. At this point, I've considered us lifelong, fierce friends. I have very few of those people, fewer than a handful. She was perhaps the most important, if not one of the most important. And I'm going to desperately miss her in future years. I already do, but she'll never leave my memory in my heart. I think she's just such an exceptional person. So I think we're going to have a couple more people give some comments. Kathy, were you going to say something?